Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, I don't recognize myself anymore? Maybe you're doing all the things, eating well, moving your body, listening to this podcast, trying to stay connected to yourself. And yet your body still feels like a stranger. Your energy is different. Your reflection feels unfamiliar. And you might even find yourself turning away from intimacy or pleasure, unsure of how to feel confident in this new version of you. If that sounds like you, know this. Your body isn't failing you. It's inviting you to pay attention in a new way. Welcome back to Pleasure in the Pause, the podcast dedicated to empowering midlife women to connect to their bodies, pleasure and power in perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. I am your host, Gabriella Espinosa, and it is my pleasure to be here with you today. We're in a season, quite literally, where so much pressure is being placed on our bodies. The holidays often bring up old patterns around food, control, and self-image. And when you layer that with the hormonal shifts of midlife, it's easy to feel like you're spiraling or slipping away from yourself. That's why I'm so thrilled to be joined by today's guest, Megan Dahlman. Megan is a certified menopause fitness specialist, nutrition coach, and personal trainer with over 17 years of experience helping women over 40 feel strong, pain-free, and confident in their bodies. She holds a degree in exercise science and is a certified strength and conditioning specialist. Megan has become a go-to expert for women in midlife who want to live long, healthy lives without falling into the trap of fad diets or extreme workouts. Through her popular online training programs, courses, weekly newsletter, and top-ranked podcast, Self-Care Simplified, Megan's mission is to make fitness and nutrition simple, doable, and sustainable. In today's episode, we're talking about what's really happening to our bodies in perimenopause and menopause, physically, emotionally, hormonally, and how to reclaim a sense of strength and connection in the midst of all of it. We'll explore the key factors that influence body composition in midlife, and we'll also talk about muscle, metabolism, and stress, but not from a place of fear or fixing. This is about redefining strength, reconnecting with your body, and remembering that confidence and pleasure are still available to you, even now, especially now. So let's dive in. Welcome to Pleasure in the Pause, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me, Gabrielle. I'm so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation all week, so I think this is going to be so good.
Me too. You have been on my mind for a long time. And I know in talking to women just over the weekend, I was at a women's health conference, and this was a big topic. What's happening to my body in menopause? So we're going to have so much to cover here. I'd love to start, though, first with having you share a bit about your journey and how you came to specialize in fitness and nutrition for midlife women.
Yes. So right out of college, so I got my degree in exercise science and I became a certified strength and conditioning specialist. And my intention was to work with like Olympic level athletes. I thought that was just the coolest, really flashy, exciting thing to work with professional athletes. And so I did. I was a performance specialist and I did like high level training. But part of that training also included training middle schoolers and high schoolers. So what was really interesting is as we were doing the athletic performance development work, a lot of those students, their moms were in the wings watching. And their moms would see the style of training that I was doing with them, the functional components, the science-based training, the effectiveness, and just the fun. And they would come up to me and be like, can we train like that? Can we work out like that? Mm-hmm. And so at that point, I started doing the same type of athletic performance development, but really applied it to the moms of the kids that I was training. And so over the years, these moms just really, they jived with me and we all got older and grew up together. And many of them, I would train a lot of young moms when I was having babies. And now as someone in perimenopause and a lot of those same moms from decades ago, they're now in their 50s, 60s. Some of them are in their 70s. And for all of them, they're like, this has been the most profound impact on my health. When all of my other friends were doing just Zumba or just walking or doing jazzercise types of classes. I was doing true athletic performance development. And it was the best thing I ever could have done for my body. So that's really the development of it all and how I came to really specialize in menopause fitness.
I love that. Yeah, getting women to really step up their fitness and really test what their bodies can do because our bodies are so amazing. Gen X kind of grew up with a lot of aerobics and cardio, and we didn't realize the importance of strength training. I certainly didn't until recently. And so we're going to get into all of that, how we can step into really empowering ourselves to step into these next few decades from a place of strength, not scarcity or lack, but really moving into that place of really looking into our health from this perspective of health span, how we age with strength and power. We're recording this episode as we're heading into the holidays, which I thought was so apropos because
Yes.
time that often brings up a lot of pressure around food, control, and our bodies. And for someone like me who grew up in that Gen X, it was like, okay, you start thinking about it and stressing about it. What am I going to eat? What can I eat? What can I cut out? So there's a lot of that pressure. For midlife women navigating physical changes, this season can feel especially loaded. What patterns do you see come up for women this time of year, and how can we begin to relate to our bodies differently in the midst of it?
I see two main patterns that really emerge during the holidays. One pattern is trying to white knuckle your way through and be as disciplined and restrictive as possible. This is someone who shows up to the holiday meal and can only allow themselves to eat a chicken salad or has to get every single workout in, has to get all their steps, has to burn all of the calories, and doesn't know what it feels like to be okay with a slight adjustment in routine. So that's one side of the coin, like someone who is just extremely intense with their efforts and really obsessive. And
Mm.
the flip side is someone who is going to say, because I can't do my routine and plan and eating habits perfectly, I'm going to do none of it. I'm going to put it
That's
all
me.
to the side. Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
called
so
me out.
you're like, I guess I'll just start my workouts back up in January. I'm too busy this time of year to get to my fitness classes or to do my 45-minute long workout that I usually do on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's just not happening this week. We've got all these parties that are planned for this week, all of these different decadent meals. Is too much to keep track of. So I'm just not even going to try. I'll come back to it. I care for my body, but I'll just come back to it in January. So we have those two ends of the spectrum. And really, true health is right in the middle. It's where there's balance, where there's moderation. And when we think about training and building a healthy lifestyle, the holidays are part of your life. And you need to be able to encounter a holiday situation and know how to not put your body on the back burner, but also to not be so obsessive or restrictive that you're not enjoying the season and what it has to offer, that you're not enjoying food, that you're not enjoying some reduced workouts. So it's finding that middle ground, which is really important. And really, what I described is that all or nothing mentality. You're either all in or you're completely out. And most of us women have spent decades of our lives on this pendulum swing of swinging from all to nothing. And right now, the holidays might be a really good time of year to practice saying, I'm not going to let this pendulum swing anymore. I'm going to find that happy middle ground between the two extremes.
Oh my gosh, you named exactly what my experience has been. Yeah, that pendulum feels so real. I have experienced that myself. So I'm so looking forward to you sharing some real nuggets of empowerment and knowledge with us. Let's start with some of the myths. What do you think are the biggest myths women are told about their bodies and fitness during menopause?
Probably the biggest one is that it's too late. The ship has sailed. You either were fit and athletic up to this point in your life, or you had healthy body composition up to this point in your life. You've always been the slender one. You've always been the one that worked out. If that's not you, then it's just too late for you. There's probably no bigger myth. And that's the rhetoric that we hear, that conversation going on in our head, whether we voice that out loud or not. We start to think with every passing year, like, it's just too late for me, especially when you have pain, back pain or hip pain or arthritis, joint pain starting to creep in. That kind of compounds that feeling of, oh, well, now I'm bone on bone. So now I can't exercise. Like, oh, it must be nice for you. I'm so glad that you're keeping up. But for me, it's too late. And that's probably the biggest myth of all.
Yeah, in speaking to some of the women that I've met, and that
Mhm.
thought comes up for me as well. If I start to experience one little achy joint or something, I'm thinking, okay, does this mean I'm done? It's the end. It's so hard to deal with those negative thoughts. What's one small mental shift or reframe that can help women question these old narratives and begin to trust our bodies again?
The one thing I always recommend that people say to themselves every single day is, what can I do today? We're
Yeah.
constantly living in this headspace of thinking of the negative. I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm not good enough. It's never going to be enough. And noticing all of our failures and all the ways that we're just not measuring up. It's just not good enough. I'm not good enough. But flipping the script and saying, no, wait a second. What can I do right now? And how can I move my body right now? Let me just start moving in that direction and every day just show up. And this is great for the holidays too. And this is how you stop the pendulum swinging. Instead of saying, well, I can't do the full thing, or my body is not up for doing the full thing today, or I can't do a squat because my knees hurt today, or whatever the thing is, I can't. Flip that around and say, okay, but what can I still do today?
Mm.
And usually that list is so long. I will have women that are in my programs and they'll reach out to me and be like, I have a surgery coming up. I've got work happening on my hip or my shoulder or my wrist or whatever it might be. And they're like, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to put everything on hold and not exercise for the next 3 months while I'm recovering. And I'd be like, okay, wait a second. Let's go through your workout plan and write down all of the exercises that you will still be able to do, the ones you can do. And usually that is the most like eye-opening exercise for them because they're like, whoa, out of 15 on my list, there's 12 of them that I can still do. There's
Mm.
only 3 that I have to modify somehow. And yet we get in our heads that, oh, because of this thing going on, I can't do anything. And so if you just approach every single day with the attitude of what can I still do, you're going to accomplish far more than you ever thought possible.
Yeah, I love that. And I see you model that on your Instagram page. You incorporate incredibly simple movements, but that is so doable while you're brushing your teeth
Right.
before you go to bed at night. There's ways to incorporate movement or mobility or flexibility with this idea of like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I can keep my body moving. I love the way that you share those actionable tips to keep our bodies moving in the simplest of ways so that we have that attitude of, yes, I can do. You mentioned a term earlier, body composition. It's
Yes.
something that gets thrown around a lot, a buzzword these days, but many women still feel unsure about what it actually refers to. Can you help us understand what it means and why it matters, especially during perimenopause and menopause?
Yes. So essentially, body composition refers to the different types of tissue that your body is composed of. So it's kind of broken down into 2 different categories of tissues. You've got lean type of tissue, and then you have fat mass tissue. So it's like lean mass and fat mass. So the lean mass types of tissue, that's going to be everything from your muscles, your bones, your nerves, like your brain. That's a big package of nerves, your fascia, your tendons, your ligaments, all of the things that hold you together, your organs. That's all lean tissue. All of that tissue is active, it's alive. Blood is like part of that, your fluid, all of the things that weigh a lot. They weigh a lot. And the other side of the coin is the fat mass. That's the other piece of the body composition. So that's going to be just your either subcutaneous fat, but also visceral fat. So those two different types of fat mass. So what's interesting is that for those of us that have spent years addicted to the scale, a lot of people would raise their hand and be like, yeah, I step on the scale every morning. I think sometimes we forget that when we step on the scale, it's measuring and weighing so much more than just our fat. It's weighing your bones, it's weighing your muscle mass, it's weighing your skin. There's so many things that weigh a lot. And we have this connection to the number, and we think if it goes up or it goes down, the only fluctuations that are happening is really just the fat mass is changing. It's either going up or going down. Your body is so much more complex than that. So, why this matters for a woman in midlife is that as we age, we want as much of that lean mass on our body as possible. Because all of that lean mass, that's what's going to help our bodies move and function and feel really good. We're going to be able to be strong. We're going to be able to move about our daily life with energy. We're going to feel resilient. All of the lean mass side of the equation, that's what contributes to that. The fat mass side of the equation, there's a certain amount of subcutaneous and visceral fat that's okay to have. We need some fat on our body to be healthy. But as those numbers increase, as our fat composition increases, that's where it can have that negative impact on our health. And what's interesting is that for women in menopause, a much larger percentage of their fat mass in menopause tends to be more of a visceral fat compared to their overall fat composition in perimenopause and younger was a lot more of just subcutaneous fat. So it's the visceral fat that's getting a lot more attention these days because that is very connected to negative health outcomes.
Okay. Yeah, I hear those two thrown about a lot as well. So can you explain the difference between visceral and subcutaneous fat and why should we be looking at visceral fat in terms of long-term health?
So subcutaneous fat, that's a big fancy word that basically just means underneath your skin. It's the fat that you can pinch. Like if you grab your belly and grab it and pinch it, or your thighs or your arm, and you feel sometimes you're also pinching your muscles, so don't freak out. But when you can grab like a skin fold and pinch the fat there, you're pinching subcutaneous fat. So there's a certain amount of subcutaneous fat that's healthy to have, but sometimes those skin folds get pretty large and you have quite a bit of subcutaneous fat. It's not quite as dangerous as the visceral fat. So, visceral fat, you can't pinch. It really likes to settle on the inside of your trunk, right around your organs. So, around your stomach, around your liver, around your heart, around your lungs. It really kind of burrows down in and gets deposited in these fat packets on the inside of your trunk. You can't pinch it. There's no way to pinch that kind of fat because it's deep up inside. And because it is so close to your organs, it's very connected to negative health outcomes. So, metabolic issues, cardiovascular diseases. And unfortunately, as women, as we get older, as our hormones shift, when our body deposits extra energy in the form of fat, it likes to put more of it in visceral fat storage because of our hormonal makeup. So That's why as we get older, for postmenopausal women, they have a higher percentage of their fat stores being in visceral fat than in just the subcutaneous fat, like when they were younger.
So does this result in looking in the mirror and thinking, what the heck happened? Or not being able to button the pair of jeans that you just wore 2 weeks ago. I hear all the time, I'm doing all the things, eating
Mhm.
well, moving my body, sleeping, but still my body keeps changing and I just can't get rid of this. It's more, I would say, distributed in the belly area, wouldn't you
Yes.
say?
Yes. So because it's trunk, it's definitely distributed in the belly area. So quite often, if you feel like your belly is expanding in size, you just feel like, gosh, I just feel thicker around the belly. Chances are there's two things going on. You might be gaining more of those visceral fat stores and also more subcutaneous fat. Both of those things can be happening at the same time. You're gaining both types of fat. One or the other could also happen too, where you're just gaining visceral fat stores and the pinching is the same. You're like, why? Like, I'm pinching the same amount of fat here on my belly, but somehow I can't like button up my pant. Like, I just look thicker around the middle somehow. Like, I see a picture of myself and somehow, like, from the side, like, I just look like I'm pregnant all of a sudden. And that is quite often more of those visceral fat stores.
So, what is a practical first step women can take to begin improving their body composition without obsessing over numbers or extremes? I know there's ways of measuring body composition. Maybe you can talk about that. But again, I feel that's just another scale that we can get very attached to. Do you think it's important to track numbers in terms of body composition? How often? And what can we do to improve our body composition?
I think each woman needs to look at their history and their relationship with scales and numbers. If you're someone that has a history of stepping on a scale and feeling very emotionally connected to the number that it tells you, or you have a history of severe calorie counting or restriction, or looking at your calorie output with exercise, you are probably someone who would not benefit from looking at another thing to measure. It's just one more number to obsess over. It's one more objective tool that does not always show the full picture. So I would say for the majority of women, start with how do you feel today?
Mm.
How do you feel? Can you physically do everything you wanna be able to do? Or is there anything physically that you wanna get better at? Are you able to climb down on the floor and pop right back up again without having to think about it or worry about it? How do your knees feel? Are you able to go walk for 5 miles at the drop of the hat if you need to with your friend? Like, physically, how do you feel every day? Are you sleeping well at night? Do you have energy that lasts all day long? Are you always afraid that you're gonna get injured? Those are all indicators that a scale will never show you. Just start moving in the direction of what can I do today that will help me feel better today, healthier, stronger, more energetic. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, by letting that be your North Star, I just wanna feel better, I wanna feel healthier, the numbers will shake out in the end. When you are healthier, when you have more energy, when you can move your body better, chances are you're going to be changing your body fat composition. You're going to be improving your lean mass tissue. You're going to be improving your heart health the more you move. So that's going to translate to having more energy, feeling more resilient. So we don't always need to just get bogged down with numbers. If you just keep moving yourself in the direction of, I just want to keep feeling better. How do I feel today? Even though that tends to be less concrete, it's a much more positive motivator than a number.
Mm. Yeah, and I love that approach because it really requires you to tune in, something that I
Mhm.
talk a lot about here
Yes.
on Pleasure in the Pause, tuning in and listening to your body and letting that be your guide. Would you recommend starting with a baseline number just to know where you're starting and then maybe checking in, I don't know, 3, 6 months down the road?
Yeah, I think that can be helpful. I think as long as you compartmentalize it in your mind and as long as you have a goal associated with it and more things around it, as long as your goal is not, okay, I'm at 30% body fat right now, and my only goal right now is to get to 25% body fat. I would say that's a great goal, 30 to 25% body fat. That's an excellent, healthy goal to move in that direction. That's definitely going to impact your overall health. But there's so many other things that I would love to see you improve in as well. Can you start lifting 20, 25-pound dumbbells in your workouts? Is that going to be part of the picture too? Are you going to improve your joint mobility? Are you going to feel more flexible? Are you going to move from doing 10-minute walks every other day to doing 30-minute walks, like up and down hills every other day? So, what else is part of the equation? Because if all the goal is going from 30% to 25% body fat, there's a handful of ways that you could do that that are not necessarily healthy for you, especially in the world of now we live in the world of GLP-1. Like you could do that without any exercising at all and just drop body fat percentage, and you might be healthier like on the numbers, but would you feel better every single day? So I would say check in, see what your baseline is. Don't check it every single week. Monthly would be enough just to make sure that you're on track. But if you are on track, you're going to feel it too.
Mhm.
You really are.
And how would you measure? Would you use one of those body scans? I can't remember the name of them. What are they called?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different measuring tools, multiple. Back in my college days, we measured our body fat composition like 25 different times. For a college age girl, let me
Oh my
tell you,
goodness. Wow.
we did the underwater weighing, we did the bod pot, like we did the skin caliper test, we did the BIA. So body impedance analysis, that's what the scale is. And honestly, that's one of the least accurate methods. It's the
Mhm.
most common to hold on to a device or stand on a scale. And what that's doing is it's sending a really low intensity impulse through your body and measuring how long it takes to get through your body. And based on the speed at which that impulse goes through the fat tissue and the water tissue on your body, it determines how much body fat composition you are. However, anyone who's ever done that knows that they could check it in the morning and check it again in the afternoon, and it could be a difference of 3 percentage points. So losing or gaining 3% body fat is completely impossible in a 24-hour period, let alone even a month period. So that type of scale is really not helpful. It can be more confusing than anything. And I've seen it measure really high. One of the best methods is the caliper test. So if you have access at a gym to a trainer who is skilled and trained in how to do a body fat caliper test, those are it's the pinch test. It's uncomfortable to do, but that's probably the most accurate method. It's only checking the subcutaneous fat though.
Mhm.
Another method that is accurate is the ultrasound method. So it's a similar, but it's just a device that kind of takes a picture image of the thickness basically between your bone and your skin. What is that made up of? So there's not very many accessible methods that are accurate for women.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's not that helpful.
I saw that you created a free quiz to help women discover their unique metabolic body type
Yeah.
and learn how to train and eat in a way that works with their strengths. I found that really helpful and really
Mhm.
revelatory. Can you tell us more about that and how understanding our body type can be a powerful starting point?
So, different body types, this is what's referred to as somatotyping. So, we're all genetically different. Every single one of us women were made up differently. None of us look the same. However, most of us fall within three broad categories, or we might be a hybrid between two. So, the three main categories are ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. And once you learn about these different categories, it's like the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh my goodness, this is why I've always looked so different from my friend. Like we could eat exactly the same way. We could exercise, do the exact same workouts, and she'll have a completely different result than I would. So it makes so much sense. So the ectomorph body type, this is someone who tends to be a lot more slender, someone who's probably never struggled with being overweight ever. Maybe their challenge has always been trying to put on weight, like trying to put on muscle in particular. Ectomorphs struggle to put weight or muscle mass on their body. An ectomorph body type is someone that you would see being a really good marathon runner, someone who excels at distance sports. And then we have the middle of the spectrum is the mesomorph body type. This is someone, let's say the track team again. We'll go with that analogy. So we had the distance runner, the ectomorph. You look at the Olympics, those ectomorphs, they're always like so slender, so skinny, but so fast for long distance. The mesomorph, this is your sprinter. So this is someone who's running the 100-meter dash. They're muscular women. They are strong. They're powerful at their healthiest. But they're also not someone who might struggle with being overweight necessarily. They're really just strong and sturdy. Soccer players tend to be mesomorphs. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the endomorph body type. This would be the women on the track team that would be like the shot put or the thrower, the javelin thrower, women who gravitate towards like rugby sports. One of my favorite endomorph is Alana Marr. I don't remember, or do you remember watching the Olympics like a year and a half ago? And we had rugby and Alana Marr just rose to the top as being this like world famous woman who played rugby and just owned her size, really healthy woman, but built like a football player. She is an endomorph. And so understanding like, wow, all of our bodies are they're shaped differently. They respond to exercise just a little bit differently. And we can adjust our expectations and our goals just slightly and our own body image when we learn the difference between all of our different types. I had a really great conversation with my niece this summer, and she's an endomorph body type, and we went running together on the beach. It was a wonderful time. And she's in high school, and she was lamenting with me that she's just bigger than all of her fellow soccer players. She's healthy. She's a healthy girl. She is not overweight. She's healthy, but she's a big girl, and she doesn't enjoy running. And she always felt so bad about that, like something was wrong with her. And I said, you know what? You're just a different body. You're an endomorph body type. There's nothing wrong about that. And you're always going to love weightlifting. You're always going to love the short, powerful sports. You're always going to be the strongest woman in the room and own that. So I think understanding our different body types can be really revolutionary to a lot of our own body image issues that some of us have.
Yeah, I think there's a beautiful way of acceptance. This is my body, and I'm going to embrace this body type. And instead of fighting that body type and trying to literally morph into another body type, I can learn to work with it. And I found that quiz very helpful because you gave certain types of exercise, certain types of lifestyle habits, and certain types of nutrition that we could use to work with our specific body type. Again, learn to embrace it and work with its strengths instead of its weaknesses.
Yes. And that's the thing too. What's interesting also is that for each body type, the recommendations end up being very similar. Like strength training and building muscle mass is the most important for all of the different body types, but for different reasons. Like the ectomorph body type, she really needs to lift weights and strength train because muscle mass does not come naturally to her. And she might never see muscle definition. That's okay. That doesn't mean that she's not getting stronger and it's not helping her bone density. The ectomorph body type, some person who's very slender, she's going to have a much higher susceptibility to osteoporosis. So that's why for her, building the muscle mass through strength training is really important. The mesomorph body type, the woman who strength training might come natural, like putting on muscle mass. I know for myself as a mesomorph body type, I look at a dumbbell and I feel like my muscles bulge. Oh gosh. It's
Mhm.
embarrassing. Like they're just like, "Ugh." But for me, my focus, even though I really love to strength training, my focus is that because I'm so muscle dominant, I really need to work on the mobility piece. I need to make sure that I maintain the flexibility, the joint mobility piece. So the endomorph body type, her primary focus needs to be improving and maintaining a healthy metabolism. Since her body type is more susceptible to becoming overweight and having too much body fat mass. So improving her overall metabolism, that's why she needs the muscle mass on her frame. So it's all the same methods of exercise, but maybe for different reasons and for slightly different expectation outcomes too. The endomorph can't lift weights and be like, this is going to turn me into looking like a marathoner. That's not your
Mhm.
body type, and it's okay.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, and I love that framework. It explained a lot for me as to why am I not seeing those. I wanna see those bulging muscles, but
Right?
just it may not happen, but I know that I am building strength and that I am redistributing my body composition. So, I'm like, "Okay, I'm doing good, I'm doing good." It helped explain that kind of doubt of, "Am I doing the right thing?" And then just saying, "Okay, this is my body type. I know that I'm supporting my bones, I'm building muscle, but I may not have those nice bulging muscles
Right?
that
Right?
I see in some other women, because there can be a lot of, like, comparison, body comparison. Why does her body look like that, and why doesn't mine look like that? There's a lot of that, especially if you're scrolling social media, so
Yeah.
steer away from that, and I think, yeah, I will link the quiz in the show notes. I encourage everyone to take it to really understand and embrace their body type. And like I said, work with it instead of against it. We do have the menopause transition, right? Hormones like estrogen, progesterone, which impact insulin and cortisol. How do those things influence things like fat distribution, metabolism, and sleep? And how can understanding this empower us rather than frustrate us?
So, insulin and cortisol, these are just always constants in our body that are part of our healthy metabolic maintenance. So, insulin that helps with energy and glucose regulation. Cortisol is something that helps with energy, but also melatonin and cortisol kind of play off of each other. They're high at different periods of the day. Cortisol is at its highest for us in the morning when melatonin is at its lowest. But cortisol also it responds to stress and it is our fight or flight hormone. It also interplays very closely with adrenaline. Now, once we put estrogen and progesterone into the picture, estrogen is this beautiful motherly hormone that kind of keeps everybody like happy and healthy and regulated nicely. So, when estrogen is in the picture, cortisol never spikes too high or too hard for very long. It's like estrogen is this beautiful, like cortisol regulator. It really helps make sure that cortisol is doing its job properly. Once we remove estrogen, now cortisol can just have a heyday in your body for no real reason, or little tiny things can set it off, or chronic stress that you might have had when you were 30 years old, now at 45 years old, that is triggering your cortisol production significantly more than it ever did because estrogen has exited the scene. Estrogen also helps with insulin response. So, insulin, we want it to be very sensitive. Sensitive sounds like it's not a good thing, but we actually want our insulin to be very sensitive. It's going to do a better job if it's sensitive. Estrogen helps our insulin stay sensitive. When estrogen walks away, now our insulin is just not as sensitive. We become a little bit more resistant. And so it's this funny interplay between all of it. And then we put progesterone in the picture. Progesterone is our big mood hormone. It impacts our mood, our motivation, our drive. Remove those things from the picture. Now we don't want to do the things that will help manage everything else. And so it's like this giant symphony, this beautiful orchestra that when we were in our 20s, maybe early 30s, everything was playing really nicely together. Everybody was in sync, everybody knew their role, and everybody was working together. Now that we're like in our 40s, 50s, everybody is like on a totally different page of the symphony. Nobody is playing well together anymore, and
Yeah.
it sounds like a mess. And so that's why we can suddenly not recognize our body anymore and feel so off.
And yeah, you mentioned estrogen and progesterone, and I'm sure testosterone also plays a key
That's
role
right. Yes, yes.
in that motivation. And I've shared here on the podcast, we've talked about hormone therapy. Even if you decide to go on hormone therapy, right, you're not going to get to your same levels as you were in your 30s or even 40s. You're just giving them a little bit of a support or boost. So we're still going to be struggling with the same kind of ramifications of those
Yeah.
declining hormones. But you talk about muscle, right, as such a key piece of this beautiful symphony in this phase of life. There are things that we can do to improve.
Yes.
And muscle is key, not just for appearance, but for energy, function, and long term strength. How do you talk to women about incorporating strength training into their routines?
Muscle is first and foremost. And it's one of those things that if it becomes your primary fitness focus, everything else that you're trying to accomplish, all of your other fitness goals are going to work themselves out. If one of your goals is to improve your body composition and lower your fat mass, focusing on building muscle strength will help do that. If one of your goals is to improve your bone density, focusing on building muscle will help do that. If one of your goals is to help regulate your hormones better, focusing on building your muscle will do all of that. So it's beautiful because we can really simplify our focus to say, I can trust that if my primary goal with my workouts is to just build muscle at all costs, whatever I need to do to get that, all of these other things that I know I want to accomplish, they're going to work themselves out. So when it comes to incorporating muscle building work, it starts with just moving your body every day, no matter what. This goes back to where we started this conversation at. What can I do today? Muscle, to keep your muscle alive, you simply have to move it. So if all you did every day was just walk, sit down, stand up, climb down, stand up, and just like move throughout the day, you would be able to maintain the majority of the muscle on your body. However, as we get older, for a number of reasons, it could be joint pain, whatever it might be, there's an almost imperceptible decline in our overall activity. We just slowly start moving less. And that's one of the big reasons why we start to lose muscle mass is that it's one of many reasons, but just kind of slowly move a little less as we go about the day. We look for chairs everywhere we go. So, right? So if we just focus on how can I move today as much as possible, that's step one. We all can do that. Step two, okay, let's take it a little bit further. Can I do movements that pull my muscles and push them through full ranges of motion? It could be using your own body weight. It could be using weights like a resistance band or a dumbbell, barbells, something. It does not have to be weights. So I don't want someone to think in order to build muscle mass, I have to go get a gym membership and become like a CrossFitter. You do not need to do that. My two most popular programs are 90 full days of body weight only muscle building work. So you don't need a full gym to build your muscle mass. Eventually, you'll probably need a little bit more resistance. You got to keep working those muscles against something to see them to continue to grow. So having a little bit of resistance, gradually easing into that resistance is really important. And that's a good, smart way to train. So if you're doing just moving every day, and then 2 or 3 times a week, you're doing some exercises that push and pull your muscles against some kind of resistance, that's going to do a good job of building and maintaining your muscle mass.
So if we're looking at this busy time of year where we're trying to squeeze it all in, what are three key exercises that will help us move towards mobilizing our muscles and moving towards creating more muscle strength?
I love exercises that use as many muscles in one go as possible. So I like to look at the three different body parts or three different areas of the body. We've got your upper body, lower body, and your core. So let me give you one exercise for each of those areas. And each of these exercises are going to work as many muscle groups as possible with one move. So for the lower body, one of the most essential exercises is just a basic squat. Do this in your kitchen. You can do it in your living room. You can do it in your bathroom. You could do it while you're brushing your teeth. So just sitting into a squat and standing back up. Okay. So if it bothers your knees to sit into a squat, push back into your hips a little bit more. Use the edge of your counter to help lower you and lift you back up. Don't go quite as deep. But ideally, every day, try to do as deep of a squat as you possibly can. See how deep your knees can bend. Just by doing that, it's going to keep your ankles, your knees, your hips nice and mobile. So a good squat as deep as you can every day is really helpful. For upper body, I love a countertop push-up. So just coming up to the edge of your countertop, putting your hands right in line with your chest, and pushing yourself away and then lowering yourself back down. Making sure that your elbows are at a 45-degree angle. This is a moving plank. If you think about what a good push-up should be, it is a plank position that just happens to be moving. You're using all of the biggest muscles of your upper body to push you and lower you down and up. So a countertop push-up, if you're pretty good at push-ups already, you can do it a little bit lower, maybe on a couch, a chair, or all the way down on the ground. Just always thinking push-up is a moving plank. Let me just hold that plank. And then speaking of planks, a good core exercise would be just a plank. So holding a plank with really good position. And I like to think a plank, when you're picturing yourself in a plank, don't be the plank, be above the plank. Okay. So picture like you have a board underneath your body and you're holding your body up above it. And usually that pulls and sucks up all of your core muscles up in this nice tucked up position that engages all of your core exactly the way it should be. Quite often when we're sitting in a plank, we're really saggy because we're thinking, I'm nice and flat. No, you're too low. So think above the plank. So those exercises, boom, boom, boom. We got your lower body with a squat. We got your upper body with a push-up, and we got your core with a plank.
So doable while the turkey's in the oven, while
Exactly.
you're waiting for guests to come over.
Yeah.
I love that. How many reps of each would you do, or how long would you
Keep it.
hold that plank?
Yeah. Let's keep it simple. So squats, let's do 10. Push-ups, let's
Mhm.
do 10. And then the plank, what I like to do is hold for breaths. So see if you can hold it for 5 full deep breaths. If you can incorporate your like a deep breath, you actually get more core muscles to fire. Because if you sit and like just hold your breath while you're doing it, we're not going to get a good core engagement, but full deep breaths is going to get your core muscles firing a little bit more. And so try to hold for 3 to 5 full deep
I
breaths.
love that. I didn't know about that. So would you
Mhm.
inhale and exhale through the mouth, through the
Yep.
nose?
Inhale through the nose, exhale hard through the mouth.
Okay.
Like exhale, push the air out really firm as hard as you can. And that is going to fire up your deepest core muscles, the ones that wrap right around your spine and even your pelvic floor muscles. All of those muscles on the inside are going to engage, pull up, and really fire with a strong exhale.
I'm gonna give that a try right after we say
Good,
goodbye.
good.
What about you hear a lot about cardio. It's good, it's not good. Strength training is the way to go. And you've given us 3 very actionable strength training tips. What do you think about cardio?
Your heart is a muscle.
Mhm.
Cardiovascular health is really just what can I do to make my heart muscle as strong as it can be. With a strong heart muscle, your blood vessels are going to be strong. They need to be elastic vessels. So, the best way to train your heart muscle is to get it to work really hard and to get it to work really hard and then have to recover. Work really hard, have to recover. Maybe work moderately for a long period of time. So think of when we train our muscles, we like to do different like rep styles, maybe really heavy for 3 to 5 reps, or maybe not quite as heavy for 15 reps. So those would be different types of a training stimulus on your muscles. Same idea with your heart. So going for a long, hard walk is really good for your heart. So is doing a really heavy strength training workout in circuit style fashion where you feel like you are huffing and puffing and your heart rate is really high. And then you rest in between. That's really healthy for your heart too. So we can train your heart in all different methods. The more variety, the better. There's a lot of news these days around like zone 2 cardio
Yes.
training.
Yes.
Zone 2 is an important zone, but so is 1, 3, 4, and 5. Don't forget all of the zones. We got to get your heart exposed to all of them. Each of those different cardio zones are really important for a healthy heart. So zone 2 is great. If you go out for a nice, powerful walk, that's going to hit it. But zone 3 and 4, if you do a really hard, fast-paced, like strength training workout, circuit style, we're going to hit those zones 3 and 4. And maybe even zone 5, which is really good for your heart too.
Mm. So if we have, say, a treadmill or a stationary bike at home, how would you incorporate that into training in these different zones?
I would do first, let's make sure that the strength training workouts are on your schedule first. Those are going to
Yes.
check off the
Okay.
most boxes. Getting and prioritizing like circuit style strength training so that we get that cardiovascular impact while we're doing our weightlifting. I love checking a lot of boxes off at one time. The more efficient we can be, the better. So that's the benefit of a circuit style strength training workout. If you have a treadmill, what I love for that is working in the lower zones and then the high zones. So if you would like to go for like a 15, 20, 30-minute, just like brisk walk, working in that zone 2, maybe zone 3, that's a great thing that you can use your treadmill for. Or on the other end of the spectrum, really high intensity intervals where you sprint like all out for 10, 20 seconds. That gets you up into that. You're maxing your heart rate out at a full sprint. And then you rest for a full minute. You get your heart rate to come all the way back down. You do 8 of those. That's really healthy for your heart too. So I don't want you to feel like you have to do separate cardio workouts. The majority of the women I coach, we focus on the strength training and then we go for like walks a couple times a week.
Oh, good.
And
Yeah.
that's great. The combination of those things is going to check off pretty much
Yeah.
all the boxes you need.
Yeah. Getting outdoors and enjoying some fresh air. Let's talk about stress for a minute. How does chronic stress, especially low level, ongoing stress, impact fatigue, recovery, fat retention? I know the holidays, getting together with family and different family dynamics can increase our stress levels. What can we do to minimize that?
Stress is important for our body in very acute settings. So it's okay to have a few doses of stress throughout the day. It becomes problematic when you're chronically stressed, when you're always feeling tense and tight and just pushed to the edge. And I think we know we're stressed. We might not feel it physically, but usually what we'll think is, I'm spread thin. I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm feeling burnt out. I'm just really tired. I'm overwhelmed. All of those emotions relate to, oh, you're probably chronically stressed. So a lot of us, especially during the holidays, there's going to be some scenarios where stressful things happen that are outside of our control. You can't delete a family member or a situation as much as we might wish we could. But how you physically react to stressful things can be very powerful. So if you notice, oh boy, I'm always saying those words, I'm always feeling that way. I need to make sure that every day I'm doing 2 or 3 things every single day that's pulling me out of this chronically stressed out state and getting me into a relaxed state. And it's okay if I go back up, but I just need to make sure I don't always stay up. So the most powerful things that you can do is simply going for a walk outside. We mentioned that.
Yeah.
And this shouldn't be a power walk. This is like a leisure walk. It needs to be relaxing. Like just go for a stroll. Take deep breaths while you're going for a stroll. That's one of the only forms of physical activity that actively reduces your stress and is not a part of acute stress. Breathing, patterned breathing, just sitting in a calming, quiet place and focusing on patterned breath work is really powerful for reducing your stress. It can even lower your blood pressure dramatically just by doing 5 deep breaths, like following a pattern, whether that's the 5-5-8 pattern, like inhale for a count of 5, hold for a count of 5, exhale for a count of 8. Doing that pattern 5 times through is very powerful. Usually having a longer exhale than your inhale, that contrast is the thing that helps de-stress. And then pick one other thing, and it could be whatever is your thing. It could be sitting with a cup of tea and reading a book. It could be taking a bath. It could be talking to a friend, not about a problem. It could be planning an upcoming trip that you're really excited about. So I usually say, if you find that you're in a chronically stressful environment, put 3 things on your schedule every day that help pull you back from the ledge, whether you feel like you need it or not.
That's so, so helpful. I know we've talked a lot about movement, muscle, and stress, and we could probably go on to a whole new episode about fueling ourselves for strength and energy. I know we don't have enough time to go into it, but what role does nutrition play in supporting women in this phase? And what's just one simple shift women can make to feel more nourished and steady to keep their bodies moving and strong?
Yeah. The way we nourish our bodies really do matter. It's one of the kind of the 4 pillars of our health at this phase of life. We've got nutrition, our fitness, our stress, like we talked about, and also the sleep. How you eat during the day impacts everything else. Like they all impact each other. If you're stressed out, you're not going to make as healthy food choices. If you're not as nourished, you're going to feel more stressed out. They all interplay. But probably the easiest, most doable piece of advice that anybody could hear right now when it comes to nutrition is that every meal, just think, eat your pros. At every meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, eat your pros. So what that means is put something on your plate that's a protein, something on your plate that's produce. Pros. So
Mm.
as long as you've got that, you're doing a pretty darn good job. So if there's something there that's protein, okay, I see chicken nuggets. Is that perfect? No, but I can do that right now. And then a handful of carrots. Okay, I've got produce. Great. Is this a perfect meal? No, but is this better than just a granola bar right now? Or is it better than a frappuccino at Starbucks right now? 100%.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So eat your pros. And honestly, as we go through the holidays, you're going to encounter so many meals where it feels like a mess. If you can just pull it back and say, you know what, let me just make sure I've got something here that's protein, something that's produce, and you're going to find that you'll be eating way better at the end of the day, just with that simple guideline.
I love that. Yeah, I love the idea of pros. Thank you so much. So, if anyone is listening, I think I can't imagine anyone that's listening that doesn't feel fired up and motivated to get moving in this way. But if we're having a little bit of still feeling a little bit of disconnection from our bodies right now, what's one belief or starting point that could help us shift towards self-trust and strength again?
I think we have to start by finding a movement that feels good to do. We've spent years, decades looking at exercises as just a piece of a workout, and we view them as a means to an end. And usually they hurt, they make us sweat, they're uncomfortable, and we're willing to endure that just so that we can get the outcome. But we've neglected to understand how good it really feels to do certain movements. So I would really encourage every woman listening, find at least one movement that you can do with your body that just feels really good when you do it. I don't want you to think about the calories. I don't even want you to think about the muscles that are happening. Like, I just want you to be present with your body as you're doing it and just notice what feels good when you do it. It could be something as simple as like a downward dog stretch or a pec stretch, like a really nice posture opening stretch. For a lot of us, we spend our days, especially for stress, we tend to be punched over, and doing a posture stretch can instantly feel so good. Hip flexor stretch. And just sitting with it for a while, taking full deep breaths and having no other intention of, I just want to enjoy how this feels. And that being the only goal. And then start to collect these movements that feel really good. And so you start to have a hand, like, oh, I love that hip flexor one. Oh, I really love that posture one. I really love how it feels to do a couple really deep squats. That feels really good. You start to grow this collection of exercises that you're doing simply because they feel good. And now you find yourself moving a lot more. You look forward to it instead of dreading it. And you start to really notice the benefits that it's having for your body. So it's really this huge reframe that a lot of us might need to go through to actually start enjoying exercising and working out again.
Thank you so, so much. And you have a few programs, don't you? I know you share a lot on your Instagram page, but you also have some great programs to help guide women to embracing this way of enjoying movement. Can you talk to us a little bit about those?
Yes. I have an entire Jumpstart series of programs that begin with the Jumpstart 30 program. And this is just body weight only. I referred to it earlier as how the whole first 90 days, we don't use any equipment. You basically learn how to move again in ways that feel really good, in ways that are balanced, in ways that don't stress out your body. But we start to put those building blocks together of building muscle, improving your mobility, your balance, all the things that you need as you're getting older. So Jumpstart 30 is the perfect starting point for majority of the women that are listening right now that are like, I need to just get back into some sort of a routine, need to get back on track and start caring for my body in a way that's not punishment, that also has a plan, that this is going to go somewhere. And I'm excited to see where it goes, but it's going to be slow and steady. So Jumpstart 30 is the best place to begin. And anyone can find that at vigeofit.com/start. You can see my programs there.
Wonderful. I'll add that to the show notes. And following you on Instagram is a great way as well. You always are sharing some wonderful movement snacks and things that help us get out of the chair and move our bodies. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge. I feel you have this very compassionate way and sustainable way of approaching movement and strength, and especially for this season of life. This conversation brought so much clarity to what's actually happening in our bodies. So thank you so much. There's so much we can realistically do to feel better, stronger, and more connected.
Thank you so much, Gabriella. It's truly been a pleasure.
Megan, happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to everyone that's listening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Pleasure in the Pause. Want to help me spread more pleasure in the world? Please hit subscribe to the podcast and share this episode with a friend, a sister, or any woman you care about. Because when we share these conversations, we remind each other we are not alone. Together, we create ripples of empowerment and support that reach far beyond ourselves. Your support means the world to me. Thank you. Remember, your pleasure matters. The information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any decisions about your health or treatment. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or Pleasure in the Pause.